Hi, this is Christopher Lee with AMUSE Music Center, here to talk to you about how to put together and maintain your clarinet. We have a couple of clarinets here. The cases are a little bit different. They come from two different manufacturers. This one uses a spring lock that you use by pushing the buttons apart and the lid opens, and to close it, snaps down. And then the other we have is a traditional draw style lock where you flip up, flip down, and the lid opens. Let's take a look at what's inside our clarinet case. We have the clarinet itself, and we have some accessories. For the clarinet, we have the bell. We have two joints. This is the upper joint. This is the lower joint. We have the barrel. And we have the mouthpiece kit. For accessories, we have a tube of cork grease. We have a cleaning swab. And we have some reeds. To put this instrument together, we need to join the parts of the body, the barrel, the bell, and the mouthpiece together in the proper order. To start with, let's take a look at the mouthpiece kit. The mouthpiece kit has three parts. It has a cap. It has a ligature. This is a metal band that holds the reed onto the mouthpiece. There's two screws. Loosen the screws, and it should slide right off. And then we have the mouthpiece itself. Now you'll take a look and notice there's cork that rings around the bottom of the mouthpiece. The cork will help it hold on to the barrel when we assemble it. But first, we're going to add cork grease so that it's easier to put together and easier to take apart. So we'll put a little cork grease around the edge there. Set that here. And taking the barrel and the mouthpiece, we're going to put them together. There's only one way we can put this together correctly. This side is too loose, and this side is just right. For those of you watching at home, we have the narrower side and the wider side. The mouthpiece goes with the narrower side. You may find you have to twist it a little bit, use a little strength to put it together, but it should go together fairly easily. We'll set this here. For the body of the clarinet, we're going to take the bell and the lower joint. We have the lower joint and the upper joint. The lower joint is longer than the upper joint. Just like with the mouthpiece, we're going to put some cork grease on the cork. That's going to help us put it together and take it apart later. And then when we put this together, we want to make sure that we grasp the clarinet in a place that has the fewest amount of keys. Because the keys are delicate, we don't want to twist or turn anything that could lead to an expensive repair. So I recommend holding right over this portion of the clarinet. Okay, open my hand so you can see. Hand goes right over here. And then I can hold the bell and twist it together to put it together. For the upper joint, it has cork on both sides. So we're going to put cork grease on both sides. To join these two portions, you have the wider side that doesn't go here. It's the narrower side that goes in. If you try to do it this way, it won't go in. Again, we're going to grasp here where there's the fewest amount of keys. And on the upper joint, where it has the fewest amount of keys, is actually the most delicate part of the clarinet. So we're going to actually hold it here in the middle where it's a little stronger, and we're going to put the two parts together. Now, lining this up is very important. We see here there's a little key that flips up and down. When I press this key, this little metal piece flips up and down. And on the lower joint, there's a piece of metal here that flips up and down when I press this key. What we want to do is join this piece of metal on top of this piece of metal. This is called the bridge key. So in order to put this together, we're going to hold onto it and flip up the bridge key with pressure from our hand, line these two up, and we're not going to spin this around. We're just going to do a little inward pressure and back and forth twisting. That should line up the bridge key in line here, and then we can let go. And now the clarinet is put together. To double check, these holes from the lower joint should line up with the holes from the upper joint in one straight line. Now we can set that aside, and we can get our reed ready. Now that we have our clarinet assembled, we're going to focus on the mouthpiece. To start with, we'll take a reed from our reed case, and we're going to put this in our mouth. We're going to make it wet so that the wood becomes flexible. And then we're going to attach it to the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece, there's a flat side here and a thin part of the tip. We're going to line this up, the thin part of the reed and the flat part of the reed meet up like so. And we're going to line the tip of the mouthpiece up with the tip of the reed and hold it with our thumb. We'll take the ligature. The ligature is tapered. There's a narrow end at the top and a wider end at the bottom. The wider end slips over the top carefully. We don't want to damage our reed. And slides into the middle of the mouthpiece. You'll know you have it down far enough if the top of the ligature is below this crescent-shaped cut on the reed and below this crescent-shaped cut on the mouthpiece. Then we will turn the screws just until they stop. You don't need to over tighten these. The ligature is just there to hold the reed onto the mouthpiece. Now we're going to put the cap on that protects the reed while we're not playing and while we're assembling the instrument. Now we can put these two parts together. Just as before, we're going to hold the body of the clarinet carefully on the lower joint here. We're going to hold the barrel, and we're going to push and twist together. You'll know you have it put together correctly when the ligature screws line up with the register key and the thumb rest down here on the bottom. If you take the cap off, you'll see the reed is also in that same line. Reed, register key, thumb rest. And that's how we put together a clarinet. To disassemble your clarinet, we're going to go in the reverse order of assembly. We'll start by removing the barrel and mouthpiece combination from the upper joint. Again, grasping here in the center and holding onto the barrel, we're going to twist slightly and pull apart. We can set this aside and focus on the rest of the clarinet. We're going to grasp down here on the bottom where we have the fewest amount of keys, and grasp here at the top, twisting and pulling apart to separate. And with the bell, same thing, grasping here where there's the fewest amount of keys, twisting and separating. Now we need to do a little maintenance on our instrument. The bell can go back in the case, but we need to use a pull-through swab on all the other parts of the clarinet. If you saw my video on the saxophone, you'll know that the swab here is a large piece of absorbent cloth attached to a cord, which is attached to a weight. We're going to pull this through all the parts of the clarinet. We'll start with the lower joint. With the lower joint, we want to put the weight through the larger opening. That was the part that was attached to the bell. We'll drop the weight in. It's going to fall through. I'll show that to you again. We drop the weight in, and it falls through. Now we can pull the swab up and through, and this will take out any moisture that's inside of your clarinet. I recommend doing this 2 times just to make sure that you got it all. This can go back in the case. With the upper joint, we want to pull the swab through the lower area that connected to the lower joint. The reason for that is if you look at the inside of the top part of this, where the register key is, there's a little pin inside. And if we try to go in through this direction, chances are it's going to get jammed and the swab is going to get stuck. So we want to come in through the other direction. So just like with the lower joint, we drop the weight in, it falls through, and we pull the swab through. Again, 2 times is recommended. Drop the weight in, pull the swab through. Now, since the bore of the clarinet, that is the size of the tubing here, is pretty narrow, from time to time your swab will get stuck. If it gets stuck, I recommend that you stop pulling and try to pull it out the opposite direction that it went in. If for some reason you can't get it out, bring it into AMUSE. We'll be happy to take it out for you. Okay, I finished swabbing my clarinet here. I'm going to put the upper joint back in the case and now focus on the barrel and mouthpiece. For the mouthpiece, we'll take the cap off. We'll unscrew the ligature. Take the reed off and put that back in the reed case. And separate the mouthpiece and the barrel to 2 parts. We can use our swab for both of these parts. Push it through, pull it through, 2 times. This is clean. That can go back in our case. And same thing with the mouthpiece. In this case, we want to go through the bottom opening, not through the top opening. This is the part that connected to the barrel. That's the direction we want to go. We drop the swab in, it falls through, and we can pull the swab through. Again, 2 times. Weight goes in, weight falls through, swab pulls through. The mouthpiece is clean. We can put our ligature back on, put our cap back on. That goes back in the case. The swab, you can fold up. And this goes back in the case. The swab, if it gets dirty, you can hand wash this and line dry it, and they should last for a couple of years. And that's how we put together and maintain a clarinet. Thanks for watching.